Yes, so I've been playing Assassin's Creed 4. I've now completed it fully. Story's done. Now, the legendary ships, obviously, you get one in every corner of the map. There's four.
Yeah.
And you know how the map is, like, separated into, like, easy, medium, hard? Well, there are
Hard and fuck
two
off.
legendary ships in the easy one. So I thought, oh, well, like, because it's an easy zone, I'll just go there. Reagan, I
Yeah.
went, I discovered, like, your first mate is like, Captain, there be two man of wars there. I'm like,
Oh, it is the two of them,
what?
isn't it?
Two man of wars? So as soon as I looked
Yeah.
through the spyglass, I turned the ship. I've never in my life
Yeah, you
turned
would.
my ship around so quickly.
Funny enough, when I booted that game up again a couple of months ago, and I had one more legendary ship to do, and it was that one, the two of them, and I was like, "Fuck this in the actual arse."
I was just like,
Apologies for the swearing immediately,
yeah.
but sod that.
And the second little story, which I'm not kidding, I was literally crying of laughter of this. So you know when you obviously, you fight a ship and you can board it, you take it over, you can either like send it to Kenway's fleet, repair it, or just, lower your wanted level. Well,
Yep.
because obviously when you upgrade the Jackdaw over time, you become a bit more powerful, so you can take on bigger ships, like frigates. So there was a lonely old frigate just cruising the sea, and started
sea.
started attacking it as one pirate does. Then obviously get to the boarding thing, and when like you're throwing the grappling hooks over to like pull the ship in, and you get like all the like soldiers putting their swords up in the air and that, like, yeah, we're gonna kill you. Well, the captain was doing that, and I usually just go on the swivel gun to just take them out. It's so much more easy. So, totally by accident, like, the captain was just being really cocky, so I thought, right, I know what I'm going to do with you.
Sod it, I'm going to shoot him in the head.
No, I shot him right in the balls.
Oh, yeah.
But it was the way it was done, Rick, and, like, it just looked so incredibly painful. Like, because all you saw was this body just go, woof. Like,
You're just mean. You're mean, Dan.
but there was, like, another soldier just running past. I thought, yeah, I'm just going to surrender now.
Yeah, you should.
Kenway the testicle killer pirate. Like, my god.
Or, as I call him, Chris Hemsworth, because he looks fucking identical
Yeah.
to Chris Hemsworth.
But yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been a good playthrough. And I much needed to complete that game after watching a rather, well, not a very good film.
Oh, hang on. Oh, now, is this Prayer for the Devil?
Yeah,
Or is it Hellraiser?
it's Pray for the Devil.
No, it's Prayer for the Devil.
Wasn't praying for the devil, I was praying for the film to end.
Yeah, I figured.
It's just
I
not,
wasn't even going to touch that.
it's just not very good.
Well, let's quickly address Hellraiser, because we have now both seen it.
Yeah!
And do you want to know what the fancy thing is?
Mm.
I think you liked it more than me.
I mean, I rated it quite low, considering my standards as you've put it.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't got any for one, so... Halloween 2018 is a 5 out of 5. Oh, what am I talking about? I promised myself I was going to go
No,
on a
you've done it
sabbatical and
now.
never
You've
talk
done it
about
now. No, you've done it
that
now.
fucking franchise again.
Yeah, I don't know what I was really expecting with this, Reagan, because I know a lot of people are quite mixed on this, but I thought it was, like, good. It wasn't as good as the original. I don't think we're ever going to get a Hellraiser film as good as the original, because it's just Clive Barker's in Vision. It's actually Clive Barker
Yeah.
directed it, like,
Oh, yeah, didn't he?
But this one, I've got to hand it to them. At least the Cenobites look decent. Some of them.
Some of them.
Yeah, I mean, the Weeper is probably like the creepiest looking Cenobite I've seen in a Hellraiser film to date.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, oh, that's disgusting.
I quite like Jamie Clayton as Priest or Pinhead.
See,
whichever way you
I'm
wanna
starting
go.
to wonder if they've maybe just decided they're going to go back to the source material, which was the comic series, because I really doubt it's like, they've done it on purpose, but in the comics, Kirsty Cotton becomes the priestess of hell.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's...
I I felt quite glad that I watched Hellraiser 2 like a couple of days before, so I got some context to the Leviathan thing bits, because I was like, if I hadn't seen that, I would have had absolutely
Yeah.
no clue what the hell you're on about. If I'm completely honest, it felt just like a generic horror film that had a little bit of Hellraiser in it. It was nowhere near the level of, I mean, I'm not expecting like the level of graphic stuff that's in it, but at the same time, it kind of builds itself on that. And you just
Yeah.
don't really get that. And also, I did not give a damn about anyone in this film. Like, oh no, your life is hell. Oh,
Yes.
you're in a horror film. Just
Very
go
sad.
ahead and die.
Anyway. Yeah,
Anywho,
it's just like where is the lust? Where is the Hellraiser themes? It's just a bit like
you hear it a little bit, but it's like
it's
it
never
feels contractually obligated to be in there.
yeah, it's never ever like touching the original. I mean, like it pays a little bit respect like with the Cenobites. I think it's like the gasp Cenobite, which is like
Yeah.
quite close to the female Cenobite, but I'm not really sure like I like just the Cenobites are just now all flesh. I kind of miss the like BDSM costumes and stuff.
Oh, really? Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. That is a little bit of a
But-
window, Dan.
When I forgot to mention this like ages ago, Edgar Wright just made the most hilarious comment in the Shudder 101 Scariest Movie Moments of All Time. And he basically said like the Cenobites are just essentially the fetish police. It's like, Frank, you've been naughty. Like, I was ill.
I am also ill. I am incredibly ill right now.
Like, as soon as he said, well, you know, the Cenobites are just essentially the fetish police just telling Frank off for escaping them.
I
So they
am
punish him with
so
more
using that
fetishism,
now.
like...
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters, the show where we talk all things movies, TV shows, video games, and a bunch of other things in no particular goddamn order. I'm noticing a trend with this. My name's
Oh, yeah.
Regan, and I'm joined once again by my incredibly awesome co-host. No sarcasm at all, maybe a little bit. It's Dan. Hello, Dan. Hello.
Hi!
Hi.
That is, like, actually the nicest comment I've received in, like, 30-odd episodes of this podcast.
Next week is going to be the worst, sorry. I just
Oh,
have
yeah,
to.
we're just plunging into, you know, the insults of the decades. But yes, hello, everybody. We're here with another trip into the Whoniverse.
Yes,
The
we
Series
are.
10 this time.
Finally. Well, I say
finally.
I say finally, we are now at the end of the good stuff and moving into the crap stuff in a couple of weeks. And Dan can definitely
Yeah.
oblige with that because he's already started watching it. And
Reagan. Do you know what it is? I thought I was being pretty cruel subjecting you to, like, numerous Halloween sequels.
I didn't.
But you are just cold-hearted subjecting me to this absolute atrocity of Doctor Who.
Let's just say
I'm
it's
3 episodes in and I just hate my life. I hate Chris Chibnall.
yeah. Well, yeah, we all do. I think I was going to say that I'm not even going to bother when we will get a Series 10 in just a moment, but just quickly addressing Series 11. We won't even try and address what's the best episode in that series because there isn't one.
No.
There just isn't. They're just all
No.
either mid to shite. Oh, the swearing's already here and it's in full force, and we're talking about the good series. Spoilers. Well, or at least for me, I think it is. But yeah, let's just go straight into Series 10. No fancy reviews or anything. We technically already did that in the pre-rambles, technically.
Yep.
Let's just move straight on with Doctor Who Series 10. So, obviously, again, this is the final series under Steven Moffat. Third and final series for Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. You've got Pearl Mackie as Bill Potts, the one series companion, which frankly is a shame. So, much like with all the previous series, very much still class this as like an experimental series. In this
Yeah.
case, it's basically pitched as a soft reboot. Like, you could start with the first episode, well, technically the second if you count the return of Dr. Mysterio, which we will address. Well, actually, will we? Because I'm actually trying to remember, did we talk about Return of Dr. Mysterio in the Series 9 one, or was it just the husband?
Yes.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So I can just cut out a good third of the script for this, because I completely forgot we spoke about that one.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain we spoke about it because I just would not shut up about how terrible this one was.
And you didn't like Heaven Sent. I'm sorry,
You're
I'm going to be
never,
salty until
ever,
the end of time.
You're never, ever, ever going to let that go, are you?
No, see, the question is...
Well, if it's any consolation with you, right, this is just so much worse than Heaven Sent.
I can work with that, in the sense that, yeah, it is, but that's because Heaven Sent is, but whatever. So with the first episode, you could literally start off having never watched a single episode of Doctor Who and pretty much get it, to be honest. At least to a point. When you get to the finale, you need to have seen a lot of Doctor Who. It kind of turns the table on that, but we will get to that. Is it a roaring success or another misstep? Well, we've already said it's not a misstep. It's a damn good series, and I'm very curious if there's going to be any major hot takes in this one, because I don't think there is. I think we're going to be pretty much on the same level, unless you claim that Twice Upon a Time is the single greatest piece of fiction you've ever seen with your eyes. Because if you say that, I'm going to turn off the webcam. I'm not going to do that. I'd be tempted to. Spoilers. I didn't like that one. But yes, let us just jump right in to episode 1, the pilot.
Yes.
Genius title. Really, really like that title. Initially
I know it. I really like it, actually. I thought, okay, for a first episode, you gave it a really good title.
Well,
already. You have me.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, initially it was titled A Star in Her Eye, because you can see in the shooting script, because the BBC writers' room have got all the scripts for most of Doctor Who now, and that's all titled A Star in Her Eye. So the pilot was obviously changed at the last minute. So for me, I think this is easily one of the strongest opening episodes to a series, frankly, in a very long time. I think it perfectly sets up our new companion, Bill. Great little mystery with the Doctor and Nardole, who's not annoying. Well, he is, but not that kind of annoying. And as I say, pitching it itself as a pilot, it really reintroduces all the major stuff with Doctor Who in such a way that it doesn't really confuse you. Villain's a bit weird, but I think it ends quite emotionally. I'm curious as to what you think, because now we are again. I feel like we're now at the point where you hadn't seen. Had you seen any of Series 10?
Not first time, like, seeing every single episode. Not once have I seen, like, these episodes in the past. But yeah, I really liked this episode. And again, you could say it was a kind of reboot in some ways. Like, you wouldn't have had to watch Doctor Who in the past, because it just starts off like the way it did way back when it was first rebooted again.
Yeah.
It just starts off like that, and you, like, you know, you just have the 12th Doctor. But again, like, when it gets a bit later on the episode, you do have to kind of watch some more. So it's a little, like, you know, hit and miss with that. I think you could probably watch like half of it, and then, like, if you hadn't seen Doctor Who in the past, you'd probably just want to, like, savor the episode until you've gone back and watched some more, which is a bit of a bummer. But you know, I really dig it. I like Bill. Pearl Mackie. I mean, she's brilliant.
Speaking of Bill, she has 45 minutes of script. Well, I mean, this entire episode is dedicated exclusively to her, and immediately she has about 650,000% more character than bloody Clara did in 3 series.
Well, do you want to know why? Because she's just not cardboard in this.
No, she's not. She's actually really, really cool. I really like her. Which is weird, because I can remember watching it was the really cringy announcement video that Doctor Who did revealing Pearl Mackie as Bill, and it's literally just a slightly edited scene in this episode when they're running from the Dalek, and it cuts to the point with them hiding, and she keeps on asking questions about the Dalek, like, constantly.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, at that point I was like, I don't like this. I don't like it. And gratefully, most of it is cut out. But she's so good in this. She's just inquisitive, and she's like the perfect, like, questioning companion. Like, she adds, like she just asks the questions that everyone else would, that no one else on the show ever would.
Yeah.
Such as, like, when, like, the Doctor's giving a monologue about, like, the TARDIS. This is like the beginning of everything there ever was, and she's like, "Is there a toilet? I'm scared. I really need the toilet." I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Or even just like that, like, reveal of, like, the inside of the TARDIS was just brilliant. I loved that.
Oh, I thought, oh, this is just fantastic, and her reaction to it as well. I thought,
Oh, it's so nice. It's just
I'm
like
here.
it's just silence. I like that.
I know there's no stupid like one-liner from the Doctor. It's just silent. It's just Bill Potting like indulging in this mysterious blue box in the university, but it just happens to be massive on the inside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of the Doctor, Series 10, I think, has the best usage of the 12th Doctor overall. I think they've finally nailed it. They've still got, like, the slightly darker, sarcastic aspects from Series 8, but they've got, like, they've still got a bit of the midlife crisis sort of thing in Series 9. It's just, like, a nice blend of the two. He's, like, very approachable, which I really like.
And also, so much floof.
Oh, the floof.
The floof.
Oh, you know what it is? You know, I'm really annoyed that when Doctor Who partnered up with that Fall Guys video game thing, and you could play as you could have like a couple of skins of the Doctors. Why the fluff wasn't there? Because that would have been hilarious. Because you're already bouncing around. Just like imagine the fluff bouncing. Anyway, sorry.
I know.
I'm going off on a tangent about Peter Capaldi's hair. We're only on episode 1. Can't wait to get to Twice Upon a Time when it's just 96% fluff, and the rest is just a Scottish accent. Oh, it's beautiful, honestly. But yeah, I really like him in this, and his chemistry with Pearl Mackie is just immediate. Like
it hits off straight away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not like, it's not painful like it was with some of, you know, Clara's episodes. That was pretty painful in some of those ones.
Yeah, but also
they just didn't connect. But like as soon as you're introduced to one another, it just like clicks together so well.
But also, I really like how this is based like a modern version of the Doctor and Ace in terms of the relationship. It's like
definitely.
It's like the professor and the student. I really like that. I've always liked that.
Yeah, I thought about that. I was like, you know what it is? This reminds me of Ace with Professor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like,
I think if she called him Professor, I think I would have just fallen over in tears and just crying. Just like, don't play with my emotions, Stephen. Speaking of emotions, because there is a lot of this, Bill has a bit of a crush on an alien T-1000 kind of thing, as it turns out. Because we've all been there. We've all been there.
Who hasn't, you know?
Robert Patrick. No, not that. But yeah, somebody like the villain, who I don't think ever has like an actual name in this. It's just like the pilot. Funny.
Yeah, I was trying to think of, like, does the villain actually have a name? But I'm pretty sure it's just the pilot.
Yeah, beyond
or
Heather.
Pilot.
I mean, you know,
yeah.
Heather's really cute. I like her.
It's not exactly like a villainous name, though, is it? Heather.
Oh,
Maybe you say it with, like, a spooky voice, and maybe, but, you know.
I've known plenty of people who are terrifying and their name is Heather. It just sort of happens. Heather. I don't know what that was. But yeah, so this is basically just like a water-based version of the T-1000, and it just follows Bill everywhere, and I actually really like that, to the point that the Doctor's like, okay, let's put her into a war zone and see what happens. Oh yeah, I'll put her against a Dalek, with their contractual obligation of the Daleks again. Ugh. I just love the fact that they keep on denying that whole theory that there is no contract about it. I'm like, mate, you're really not selling it very well, because they're only showing up at least once a year and they do nothing. But I think what's even worse is the fact that you've got them during the war with the Morvellans, which I think is from the 5th or 6th Doctor era. I think I haven't got to that point, but I mean, I did recognize the hair, where it's like where like the short white braids. I'm fairly certain there's some sort of story with that.
Yeah,
but
can't really think off the top of my head, like, but no. Yeah.
But otherwise, it's a bit pointless that you know the Daleks are there anyway. So it's like, oh, you are the Doctor, you're an enemy of the Daleks. And I'm like, yeah, we know. Just like hurry up, come on, hurry up.
At least he kind of does that. Yeah, enemy of the Daleks. Yeah, blah 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 blah. Water monster.
Yeah. And yeah, the final scenes between Bill and Heather are really lovely. And you know, I think we all knew what was going to happen by the end of the series with Bill crying, and she's like, I don't think the tears are mine. I'm like, yeah, okay, we know what's going to happen next. But it's cute. They're running across each other for a crush. I'm like, oh man, damn it. but yeah, you know, as I say, I really like this one. I mean, I like it more on rewatch. For sure. Anytime I watch it, it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think as a first time watch, I mean, this is something I could just easily, like pretty much the entirety of season 10, I could just go back to. Series 10 rather. Season, well, same thing really, isn't it? But,
Yeah, either or.
yeah, I could easily go back and just watch that from like start to finish again, without a doubt.
Yeah, I definitely would. But moving on to episode 2, Smile. Not the horror film that Dan has seen. Surprisingly enough, I mean, just sort of like the irony. This one is from Frank Cottrell Boyce, who made the universally acclaimed, not really, In the Forest of the Night from Series 8, which is rubbish. I don't care what anyone else says, I don't like it, it's crap.
It's a bit naff, like.
That being said, this one, I really like a lot more on rewatch. Ending's still a bit naff, but I still have a lot of fun with it. Yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah, I think I really like it. It's like modern day, like I don't know what even the word would be. It's like a modern day setting, but you're combining Doctor Who in it as well. Like you've got these just robots that are just all about emojis. The world is just full of emojis, and now you just have a planet full of emoji robots.
And to think that
It's brilliant.
this damn thing came out in the same year as the Emoji Movie.
Yeah, I know.
I can tell you which one is better. Surprisingly enough.
This is. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this series does a really good job, especially with like social commentary on stuff, and in this case, so like like how language in the future is just going to be simplified for the sake of traveling out across like the universe.
Well, it's mood, isn't it? In this, it's mood. Yeah.
And I quite like that. Like it's not. I mean, it's still a little bit silly, but when you get to the emoji bots, if that's actually what they're called, I'm fairly certain they're called the emoji bots.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain. I don't think they've got like a proper name. I think they're just labelled as the emoji bots.
Yeah. And they start out like really cute. They're all like smiling and bouncing around. You're like, oh my god, I want one. And then it does like the skull and crossbones, and you're like, oh, never mind, run away. And it's one thing I really like is the idea because it's a bit like with like a clown or something where like a clown has a painted smile, and it ain't really smiling. In this case, you got a robot that's like, I'm really happy, and in reality, it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. I don't know anything at all.
Yeah, it is definitely like a painted smile in some ways, because you think, oh, a nice and happy, bouncy little robot, and then things just turn sinister, and you're like, yeah, these guys aren't happy.
Yeah, I mean, they do kind of run out of things to do, to the point that they're just sort of like standing around with like really grim-looking faces, and they just look like me at work, frankly, just...
Well, it's because before they do the skull and crossbones face, they have like the angry emoji face on.
Yeah.
And then like it just goes to like a skull and crossbones, like, oh, you're that annoyed, you're now wanting to kill people because you're that annoyed. I mean, mood.
Yeah, I've been there all the time. I've always been there. But yeah, I mean, it was actually quite cute when I was at the Doctor Who exhibition in Liverpool last month, and I had one of the emoji bots on display. I'm like, oh my god, I really want one now.
Did it like work and stuff, or was it just like there on display?
Annoyingly, no. It was just kept in a cabinet, which is probably the best idea, because if I stop smiling, it's gonna kill us.
It's gonna like unleash like a bunch of like, well, I can't even remember what the hell like the thing was. It's just like well, it's like the building's made out of whatever the emoji bots are.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're kind of like little like nanobots.
Nanobots, yeah, like really nasty microbots.
Yeah.
You're looking it up, aren't you?
No, I'm not looking it up. Of course, I'm looking it up. It's like the one bit that I didn't put in. So I know this now. The nanobots are called the Vardy. It's like,
that's
of course they are.
The Vardy.
Of course they are, mate. Yeah, I do really like it. I mean, as I say, the ending is a bit... it's one of those weird episodes where like it actually ends about 20 minutes in. As soon as they get out of the actual resort, then it's like, oh, we're gonna go back in and blow it up. I'm like yeah. Oh, I would just kind of leave. Frankly.
Yeah. Because they do this like great shot where they're running through like the grain field, and the doctor's like, right, I'm gonna go blow it up. And Bill's just like,
what?
But TARDIS right here.
Yeah. So I mean, like as soon as like the humans rock up, and it's like, okay, and it does like drop down, like in terms of like
Yeah, a little
interest and especially pacing. But overall, I still like the episode. I don't love it by any means, but it's a damn sight better.
It's
than
fun.
In
It's a
the
fun
Forest of the
episode.
Night.
Yeah, it's I mean, Forest of the Night is just absolute.
Wasn't even set at night. It lied.
No.
It lied in the goddamn
Forest of the Day.
Yes. Now moving on to episode 3. I can see you smiling already. Thin Ice, written once again.
I need to be
by
reminded about this
Sarah
one because I
Dollard.
can't remember anything about this one.
You're joking.
No, I it's been a while since I've I've kind of like took it in like little like weeks to watch this series. I've just like binged it all in one day that I usually do.
Yeah. This one I've always loved. I've always loved this one. So this is the one in 1814 in the Frost Fairs.
Oh,
in
has this
London.
got the where they're on the River Thames and there's like a frost fair? Yeah, now
I've
I remember.
always been so fascinated by the idea of like Frost Fairs. They sound so awesome, and I'm like, can we not just like shrink the Thames again? Can we not just make it a little bit more square, and then can we make it freeze over again? Because it sounds so awesome.
It does. It does sound really, really cool, but I don't really think it's gonna happen.
Fine, bloody global warming.
Fine.
One thing I do actually like is like a little bit of trivia. When this is set, this is like the last of the Frost Fairs before they did stuff with the Thames, and the Frost Fairs just never happened again because the Thames never flows over. If you think back to Series 6, A Good Man Goes to War, River Song references that she went to that Frost Fair with the Doctor in the same year to the same
my
Frost
God.
Fair, and they had Stevie Wonder sing on London Bridge.
Oh, I remember that. Oh God.
I was like, I would have liked to have just seen that, and so like the pre-titles bit, just have like a shot of Stevie Wonder on the bridge and just like pan down to like the bloody elephant. Oh, that would have been so
really,
funny.
really funny.
But yeah, this is such a good episode. I really, really like it a lot.
Yeah, I think as a third episode, like usually with some of the previous Doctor Who episodes, the third episode for me is always a bit like hit and miss. But for this one, it's just exceeded all expectations. Like this is a really good episode.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the reasons that makes it work really well is especially the development given to Bill and the Doctor, because she quickly learns that for all the 12th Doctor has changed, he's still pretty bloody ruthless. Like he'd rather save his goddamn glow stick that makes noises than save a child he knows he can't save. Who, by the way, because I hadn't actually mentioned this, we're 3 episodes in and the body count in this series is excessive.
Oh, I know.
Like the fact the kid stays dead as well. Like it isn't revealed he's
Like,
kept in like a
you'd
sack in the
think-
fish or something.
You'd think that like it would be like a happy ending. The kid gets saved. That no, none of that in this series. None of that.
And I just
The kid has been digested in a giant monster fish under the River Thames.
But I love the confrontation between Bill and the Doctor. He's just like, yeah, I do remember, but I just move on because I'm over 2,000 years old. I haven't got the time for that. And it's such a window into that character's psyche. It's a bit like in Day of the Doctor, when the 11th Doctor is referred to as the man who forgets in relation to the Time War.
Yeah.
He just moves on. And in the case with the 12th Doctor, he moves on after about 7 seconds. It's like,
Kid
oh no,
gets
he's
eaten.
dead anyway. Let's go.
Kid gets eaten by a giant fish. Right. I'm 2,000 years old. I just can't be asked for this shit anymore.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you've got the giant fish, which, again, I don't think has a name. I just refer to it as the giant fish. Although,
Yeah, I mean, I've just pretty much labelled it like the monster under the River Thames.
I do find it really funny, and this is me getting really nitpicky with like the logistics of the TARDIS. When like they go out of the TARDIS, like after the titles roll, it says "Warning: Life form detected." I'm like, mate, you're on Earth. There's a couple of life forms there. You're gonna have to narrow it down.
Yeah, you're gonna really have to do a very, very fine search on life forms. There's a lot of life forms on Earth.
Warning: really, really, really big life form detected. Like, oh, is it Boris or is it? Oh no, it's a giant fish. No, I'm not referencing the politics in this one. We're not referencing.
You gotta think though, like that giant fish, like because it's under the River Thames. Like, do you think it's just like eating absolutely everything under the Thames?
It probably has.
Like, it's probably devoured, like, you know, the murder victims of like Jack the Ripper or something like that. So it's no wonder we can't solve it.
Plot twist. He didn't eat the victims of Jack the Ripper. He is Jack the Ripper. That's why we couldn't find him.
Jack the Flipper.
Fuck's sake. Oh no, Dan.
See, now I can just see like Photoshop art of just that giant fish's face with like the hat.
Oh, I'm gonna have to call him.
Why does that sound like some like really like suspicious burger joint? Jack the Flipper. We'll murder you for burgers.
Let's move on from the fish before I lose the plot. We'll talk about the guy in the incredibly blue coat. What's his name? Sutcliffe. Wow. He's not going down in history as one of the most memorable villains on the planet.
Yeah, he's...
At the same time, I don't think he's really supposed to. He's a bit of a cartoon. Though, it is nice when the show does tackle themes such as racism. This one's pretty blunt with it, unlike with Martha, where it's sort of like nudged at it. And the Doctor's like, okay, I'm going to figure out if he's human. I'm going to punch him in the face. Like, I love that. That's so good.
Oh, yeah, because it's like Bill says something to him, and then he says something, like, pretty, like, provocative. And the Doctor's like, right, let me just check if he's human. I'll punch him in the face.
It's like,
that is brilliant.
He is actually human. But, I mean, like, he's kind of there just to be like, oh, yeah, he is just, like, he is human, but he's far from it because he just doesn't care. It's very much like the norm of like the Victorian. Is it Victorian? Is it classed as Victorian?
I think it's definitely like a Victorian-y vibe. I don't know if it's like supposed to be set like straight in it or maybe just before it.
I was gonna say
it really kind of feels like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely like those kind of values, really, especially with like, well, you got like the people being worked to death, trying to scrub stuff from the creature.
It's sort of like the workers for one. I thought, well, yeah, that definitely points a hand to it. The dress wear with like I think like the what you'd say like are the bosses with like the really like, you know, over the top like dress wear, like with the fancy coats and the hats and stuff.
Yeah. And
the workers are like just in like pretty much rags, to be honest. I thought, okay, this is definitely kind of Victorian London, this.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably classed as Georgian actually when I come to think of it, because I mean, if Victoria died in 1901. I'm trying not to do a history lesson on Queen Victoria. I already do it enough at work and it's annoying.
It could be either, to be honest. It might be set like in Georgian or like post Victoria rather. Like
one of them.
I don't know. We'll write to Steven.
I don't know anymore. I don't care.
we'll write to.
I mean, like beyond like a really stupid human villain and some questionable CGI with the fish towards the end. This is still a really damn good one. Like, it's three episodes into a new series, and like, you know what, this is damn good, damn good.
Definitely.
Then I think we actually, I don't know if we get better. We get pretty similar with Knock Knock, written by Mike Bartlett, who I don't think is written for the show prior or since.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't seem like a name that I've seen on like previous episodes and that. I think this is like a first time for him.
One thing I will quickly say though about the series is that I think, despite how much I like the series, some of the titles for the episodes are very, very generic, such as Knock Knock. That's like really. I'd expect that as like a pop song title or something. I wouldn't expect it for an episode of Doctor Who.
I'm pretty sure it's the name of like a horror film that stars Keanu Reeves in it as well.
Oh yeah, there is. I've seen a bit of that.
Yeah.
I saw one scene and I didn't. I wasn't. Nah, fam, no, not interested. The Doctor Who version, gratefully, has less of the bit that I saw. Starts out as a pretty typical run-of-the-mill Doctor Who story with a bit of a haunted house kind of thing, and then turns into something far more compelling and ultimately really, really tragic. And every time I watch it, I find more to like it, and I think it's probably one of the more underrated episodes of the show, and I feel like you've probably forgotten a decent chunk of it again.
No, I remember this because Bill and our pals are just trying to find like some accommodation, and they go round to like numerous estate agents, and nothing really comes to. So then this strange man is like, "Oh, are you looking for somewhere to live?"
It's like,
nice
no, we're not
big
buying.
old mansion, big old mansion type thing.
Yeah.
And events just start unfolding, and especially towards the end, it just becomes really tragic.
Yeah, like really, really sad.
I was just like, I wasn't expecting this, and now my heart hurts.
And you also wasn't expecting the body count to go up again.
No!
The
house absorbs people.
I know.
The absorber house.
No, Dan. Talk about Jack the Flipper instead.
No.
No, we'll talk about David Suchet, who plays the landlord, who I don't even think even has like an actual name in this. He's just the landlord, the poor sod. Now, for those who don't, well, I think everyone knows like David Suchet played Poirot for like 25 years. I never watched it, unfortunately. Though I do remember watching interviews with him talking about being on Doctor Who, and he was like really, really excitable. He turns into like a little boy, which is ironic given the episode.
Yeah.
But he's great in this. Like, he's so creepy, and you can never quite tell what he's thinking, which just makes it
especially
even
like
weirder.
when he just goes up to people he doesn't know, and he's just like, "Oh, do you need a place to live?"
Yeah.
But he says it with like such like friendliness, and then like he just when they're in the house, like he goes through like the rules and stuff like this. And it's like, okay, you're not who I thought you were gonna be. Mm-hmm. You're a bit creepy.
Yeah, a wee bit.
A wee bit creepy.
Yeah. And then, as you mentioned, this one has a good emphasis on Bill and a mate. It's basically like Bill's life outside of the TARDIS, which is nice that she's already got that with the Doctor. It's like, okay, this is, because she even says, like, this is the part of my life that you're not in. I was like, I really like that. You're actually already putting boundaries. I like that.
I'm kind of glad that it's not just like
Clara again.
Yeah, where it's like a basic sort of like family life where it was just really basic with Clara. It's like, oh, this is just my life outside the TARDIS. But with Bill, it's actually believable. Mm-hmm. She's got mates, they're there with her, that she's trying to just make her way in the world.
Speaking of those mates, when I was out, I did not actually know this until I was researching for the purpose of this video. There was actually an idea really early on that one of Bill's mates was actually going to be the grandson of Harry Sullivan, who, for those who don't know, was the companion to the Fourth Doctor.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, I thought that'd be quite nice. I'd like that.
Yeah.
And of course, Harry Sullivan did get a mention in the Zygon 2-part of last series, so you'd think that this would have led to Harry Sullivan appearing. But no.
It really wouldn't have hurt, I think. Wouldn't really hurt.
Nah,
but,
it would have been nice. But of course, the big thing, beyond the little woodlice, I think have names. I actually forgot that they were supposed to be alien, just because it's all just set on Earth. It's just like, you think, oh, it's just like really oversized woodlice. Now you have the reveal of Eliza, who initially were led to believe, oh, she's the landlord's daughter. No, she's actually his mother. And she's been stuck like that for years, and you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, I just remember, like, the reveal of it, and I thought, oh, man. Like, I just love Doctor Who episodes when they just have such an unexpected last like 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, the makeup and the prosthetics for her is amazing. It's,
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely a damn sight better than the wooden creatures in the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, because sod that.
The wooden like tree slash chess pieces.
Yeah, but even just her interactions with her son are so sweet. Even with like Sue, she has character again devolving it into a child whenever he's speaking with her, and he's just like, "No, I won't do it. No, no, mother." And it's like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" Damn it, Mike! I swear to God.
Damn it, Mike.
4 episodes in, and it's just toying with everything I've got.
I was just like, that is so sweet, but it's tragic at the same time because it's obviously revealed that, he does all of these things to try and, help his mother get better, but obviously that is not the case. And that ending, I was just like, well, there goes my heart yet again.
All I'll say is that actually, because I hadn't rewatched the episode for quite a few years, my internal memory was that she does actually survive, and there was something else that was in my head in fact, actually, I think I got it confused with the Dalek two-parter in series 3 with Laszlo. Weirdly enough, because I can see why. Because I pictured someone, in like prosthetics and stuff outside in the real world preparing to like live a new life. Yeah. No, she dies.
Yeah, she just gets like
just
eaten. Eaten.
Yeah, I mean, this one, the first 20-ish minutes I think are a bit of a slog, but it's those final few scenes that really lifts us, and it's so good.
I think the start is a bit slow, but it's when like her pals start going missing. That's when it kind of just gets my interest up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the reveal that other people have been in this house. I thought, oh no,
yeah, that
Bill, you're in trouble.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely a very good one. And much like with the next one, they're really on a roll with Oxygen by Jamie Mattison, who of course wrote the best episode of Series 8 with Mummy on the Orient Express. No one's favourite episode in Series 9 with the girl who died. I forget that one even exists. This one is terrific. I love it. And
It is. I really like this one. It's creepy as hell.
Would you like to know, actually, what I find really, really convenient is when this episode released, would you like to know what space science fiction horror film was released on the same week?
Life?
No.
Alien?
Alien, yeah.
Alien? No way.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, yeah, very, very different. There's no, like, xenomorphs in this one. I mean, like, you could do, but,
I would love to see that just to see how the Doctor would react to a xenomorph. Probably wouldn't end well, but
Well, if it's anything like what happens in Last Christmas when he's like, "Oh, I find that really offensive."
Yeah.
Yeah. Best line in series 8. Now, this episode is really interesting because you do get a lot of people, mostly people that are just quite sad. Like, whenever they complain about the new era of Doctor Who, and it's always like, oh, the biggest issue is how political it is. Doctor Who's always been political. That's always been a thing.
Yeah.
This one is very obviously political, but it's done really well. In this case, it's a commentary on bloody capitalism, which, quite frankly, shouldn't even be commentary. It should just be standard. But it just works so well. So in this case, it's the idea that oxygen, the very thing we actually need to survive, is now monetizable in the future and must be bought to actually use. That's horrible, but it's also realistic when you think about the fact that it's the exact same sort of thing as it is now. Like, we need water to survive. Yeah. We need to go and buy a bottle of water. Like,
yeah, it's... I really like that idea of, like... And do you know what it is? Like, it isn't cheap in that episode either. It's like... Mm-hmm. However much I'm like, okay, I'm sensing a bit of like capitalism poking here. Like, I'm like, okay.
But I think as well, the bit that makes it work even better is the suits that like creates like
Oh.
the zombie things is like, oh no, they're malfunctioning. No, actually, they're just doing their job. That's the whole point. And I love that as it reveals, like, oh, it's just that is what it is because that is what the economy would be like. And I'm like, you know what? It's actually more terrifying with the fact that this would probably happen in the future. It's like, yeah, we can monetize a gas. Why not?
If you can't pay, we'll just turn you into a zombie, but we'll keep the suit.
I've been there.
I mean, who hasn't, in all honesty? Yeah, those... I think it's like the beginning shot when two people are like out repairing something,
Oh, yeah.
and she gets like... Well, she dies.
Surprisingly enough.
And when she's revealed to be like a zombie, I just thought, okay, that is absolutely terrifying. Because it's just you know that something's up, and you just think, will you just reply to him, please? Like, please don't be dead.
There was actually part of us that actually thought this might have led into the Mondasian Cybermen popping up at the end of this series. There was the part of us that thought, is that going to be part of this? Gratefully, it's not, because it doesn't really need to be, because they already have their own origin story, which we'll get to. But I like how it's just kept as its own thing, but also just the amount of lasting effects on all the characters because of this one bloody episode. Like, for one, Bill dies briefly, ish, bit of a cop out.
Pretty briefly.
But just that line that the Doctor has to her, it's like, you are about to be exposed to the vacuum of space. It's like, not gonna try and save her? No? Okay, you're just gonna... Right, okay, we're gonna do that. That's fine.
See, I think that's why I like him so much as the Doctor, because he doesn't try to sugarcoat it, he just says it as it is. It's like, Bill, you're about to be exposed to the vacuum of space.
Like, just... Okay.
Yeah, just okay? Is that alright?
I mean, it's obviously a bit of a cop-out that Bill does survive, but it's also quite sad with the fact that she's the one that survives and everyone else doesn't, and you get that little moment when one of the zombies helps the other guy towards the end, like gives her the oxygen that she doesn't need anymore.
Yeah,
and he's like, thanks, and there's just no reaction. Just like, oh Jesus, what is it with this series? It's killing everyone.
Body count. Like, by God, you think, oh my God, with like 4 episodes into this, body count is just racking up.
It's amazing. But then also the big thing, again, there's a lot of big things in this series. The Doctor is blind. He's blinded about halfway through, and he fixes it through some techno babble, and then it's revealed in the very final few seconds, no, I'm still blind. I just lied. And you're like, oh, we're actually going to carry this over. I was like, that is amazing. I love that.
Wasn't expecting them to carry it over. I thought like it would just be a very like quick sort of fix end thing, but it isn't. I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
I'm really glad they didn't.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say like 5 episodes in currently so far, this is the best episode of the series as we're going along. If not overall, we'll get to that. But my God, is it a damn good one, and it was especially just like rewatching it, it was so good. It's annoying, frankly, because
I was really impressed with it. I was really impressed. I thought, oh, okay, we're doing this, are we?
It's really annoying because I still worship at the altar that is Series 5, but Series 10 really does give it a run for its money. Like, I might be tempted to bump it up a little bit more. I guess I only picked Series 5 because the 11th Doctor's mine. Just, he's mine.
He's mine.
I own him. He is mine.
All right. God.
Sorry, Matt. But now we move on to another episode from Steven Moffat. Iron Man 3. I mean, Extremis.
Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3.5.
So this is the first part in a trilogy. The Monk trilogy, as it's loosely called. This it's doing quite a bit. I think it works. I don't find myself enjoying it as much as the others do. Judging by your face, I think you're pretty much the same on me.
Yeah, like there's bits and pieces that I like, but the main issue I've got with it is it's just so slow.
Well,
like, by God.
Yeah, the bits. Okay, right. The bits that I like. Actually, we'll actually reference the other subplot that was in the series that hasn't really that we haven't talked about, mostly because we all knew what was going to happen. The vault, the weird thing that like the Doctor and Nardole is protecting underneath the university, and people are like, "Ooh, what is in the vault?" Some people actually thought it was like Omega. I was like, "You're not revealing him in a vault underneath a university in Bristol. You're just not doing that."
I'd welcome like a spoof of that. Like someone needs to just get that really god awful CG of the hand of Omega in the coffin and just have it float out of the vault.
But no, in reality, it's Missy, which is nice. I always like Missy, especially in this series.
I wasn't expecting like Missy.
Really?
I thought, well, like, okay, they've got like this hugely secure vault. There is clearly something bad behind that. But then, like, as it went on, I thought, well, who could they have in that vault? Like, is it just some manic Dalek again, or is it like, you know, like a half a Cyberman, or you know, is it like a Sontaran, or no? It turns out to be Missy.
Yeah, it feeds into the wider story arc with her, but I think when it's because for one, it's revealed in such a stupid way. It's just done in like little chunks throughout this episode that do not need to be in, which does add to the issues with the pacing because it just drops as soon as it goes back to this. Even if it is quite funny when she's just kind of lying there waiting to be shot because everyone's just taking their sweet ass time. It's like, yep, I'm still here. But I still really like her. Like,
oh, Missy is just terrific. There was a later episode, right, and I've got something on Missy for this, and I was absolutely ill with laughter from it.
I know exactly what it was. I know exactly, and you know, I really hope it's the same one. And if it is, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. Again, there's like 2 bits with the Master, Missy, whatever, in the last couple of weeks that I've mentioned that's just brilliant.
Yeah.
One of them from something that no one would have ever expected, frankly. But let's talk about the monks. Creepy monks. Or just the monks, because monks are creepy. They're not creepy.
You know what they kind of remind me of?
The ones from Series 4, the Pyrovile thingies.
I'm a bit concerned how you just immediately knew that, but yeah.
Because they look freaking identical, mate.
Yeah, they do. They do look pretty much identical, but less stony and more fleshy.
Yeah, still very, very creepy. I do really like them.
I like the fact that they don't like actually speak as well. Like they kind of do it like telepathic. Like they don't move their mouth. They just.
That's interesting because I don't like that. I find it really cheap. Right. That being said, I will comment on that when it comes to the Cybermen later in the series because they do the exact same thing. But I think it works better for that. They sound quite generic for me personally. That being said, I love the concept of a creature that's so powerful that can create simulations of ways they're going to invade a planet and just keep on doing it until they figure out how to do it. I'm like, that is such a good idea. And this is Steven Moffat once again taking the mundane and making it terrifying. In this case, it's the idea of non-playable characters in a video game. I was like, I mean, I'm not going to go back and play Grand Theft Auto and look at it differently. I was like, NPCs do not feel pain. No, they don't, Stephen. Shut up.
I mean,
the only video game you've ever played is Tomb Raider 2 on the PS1. That's it. And the only thing you ever did in that was... No, anyway, we aren't going to go there.
We aren't going to go there.
No, when we talk about Tomb Raider further on in the future. But I do really like the concept of the monks, especially with just like how powerful they are. Even if the reveal of it being a simulation it's a bit low key for me, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't buy the idea that the Doctor would figure this out, and then bear in mind he's still blinded in this episode, so he's wearing those godforsaken
really
sunglasses.
Like that.
Oh, he was wearing the sunglasses all day, and I was like, oh, get rid of this. That being said,
it just felt so cheap. Like he knew all of this, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'll just keep it to myself."
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, psst, it's a simulation.
Yeah, But also, I think it also adds to the fact that like he steals like a bit of regeneration from his future, but because it's a simulation, he doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, for one, I hate the Sonic sunglasses anyway. I despise them. Like, it's such
No,
a
I'm not a
stupid
fan
idea.
of them. Not a fan.
But I did find it funny when like it opens up and Bill's on a date and it's going fine, and then the Pope turns up. Which actually I didn't know.
Straight from the Vatican, I was just
Yeah.
like, oh my god.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, I really like the idea that there's like, because clearly these guys have figured out that this is a simulation, and that's the whole point of the Veritas book, because it reveals what it is, and once you realise that, you want to kill yourself. Body count again. It's very, very high.
Oh, yeah.
I also actually really like that. There's like a little bit of trivia. The guy who plays the Pope in this, he played the guy in Turn Left that Wilfred befriends when they all move into his house and it's like really overcrowded. It's the same guy. I was like, really? No, stop it with the emotions again, because I loved him.
Oh wow, okay.
And now he's just a comedic foil as the Pope should be. Can you tell I'm not very religious, Dan?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's aside from like the pacing, it's pretty good. But again, like there's just a few things that are a bit hit and miss for me, particularly with like the bit of a cheap, you know, the Doctor knew this was a simulation all along. I thought, oh, okay then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the idea of sending an email to your real self via glasses, screw that entirely.
Yeah, I was a bit like, all right then.
And I know I said about the titles for these episodes being a bit hit or miss in the first half of the series. We don't have that with the next one, The Pyramid at the End of the World. I love that title. That's so good.
Soon as I saw that title, I thought, okay, you've got me.
Yep. So this one's by Peter Harness and Steven Moffat. Peter Harness did the critically acclaimed, again, not really, highly divisive, Kill the Moon from Series 8. One I still really like. I know people don't like it. I know it's fine. Just on the premise alone of this one, I really like it. Just like the idea that the monks, again, showing how powerful they are. So like, let's create a distraction in like an undisputed military zone, get all the world's militaries to focus on that, all while we're actually cooking up this thing on the other side of the world. Again, that's so good. I really like that.
Really good. It is really, really good. I love the fact that like that there is an emergency because the pyramid is just like, you know, appeared in this militarization zone, and it's like, okay. And then, you know, everyone, you're kind of led to believe that they're planning an invasion, but really they're just, you know, they're doing monk things.
I don't think monks would usually do this sort of thing. I'm pretty certain
they're doing alien monk things.
Oh, alien. Oh, okay. Because otherwise, King Henry VIII was onto something.
Yeah, I really like it. I really like it.
Yeah, you do. Look how happy his face is. You can't because this is audio. I can, and he's very happy. Yeah. Again, I like how in the script I've still got the Doctor is still blind again.
Yeah.
But this time it goes even further with the fact that, like, because when he goes to the lab, first of all, the whole lab stuff is great. Even if it is a little funny that the guy who was Brian in My Parents Are Aliens is in this. I don't know if
yeah, Christ.
I was like, oh, Brian just melted. Oh, damn it, Brian.
What a world.
I mean, first of all, the whole subplot in the lab feels very timely. Like, is this set in 2017 or is it set in 2020?
Yeah. I thought his death was pretty gross. Like, I mean, they've really just ramped up the killing in this, haven't they? Like, my God.
Killing in the name of Steven Moffat.
Yeah, it's... I really like the lab stuff, surprisingly, and I was a bit like, okay, this is weird, but especially with the Doctor, he's like, when he goes in the room and he's blind, and he's trying to like, well, how, like, you'll have to tell me where the key things are. It's like, well, I can't. Like, I just can't.
And Bill's reaction is just devastating. Just like everything is just severed at that point. Like, you absolute liar. Like,
Like that, her reaction to that is if you just literally got a box of kittens and just drown them in front of her.
Stephen
That
Moffat
is honestly her reaction.
Stephen would probably do that as well. Considering the level of emotions in this series, like, Jesus.
Like, my God, I was like, whew.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that was really, really good, and I kind of like that the Doctor just really can't save the world this time around.
Well, yeah, because the monks win.
Yeah,
Which
win.
I like that. I mean, considering it's the second episode in a trilogy, you kind of figured that had to happen.
I really like the thing with the military leaders where like the monks, like they want Earth to like voluntarily hand itself over to the protection of the monks, but it has to come from the heart, not anything else. It can't be like cheap strategy, whatever. But I think it's like the military leaders that it's seen as strategy, so
Yeah.
they all just get killed.
Yeah.
But with Bill, and because of the realization that the Doctor is now blind, hers is like pure. She has like a pure, like, heart for it.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah,
prob.
I really like it a lot. There's also just like some like really creepy shots, especially when there's like a hidden camera in the top of the pyramid, and you see just sort of like the Doctor just all waiting there, and you can just see like a couple of the monks just sort of like reflected in the camera as like they're just watching.
Ooh.
But also just like the bit when they're flying the plane over, and they just get rid of the pilots, and they are now the pilots.
Oh, I thought that was terrifying.
No.
I thought, oh no.
But yeah, as like a middle chapter, I mean, this is already a lot stronger than the previous one.
Oh yeah.
Again, just on the title alone, it wins.
Literally.
And then,
Oh.
and then we get to The Lie of the Land by Toby Whithouse. It certainly has merit.
What if the monks won?
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly has merit. But this doesn't work very well, frankly. There's some decent
I
ideas.
think this is quite ropey.
Yeah. That being said, when I again with research into this, obviously you had Steven Moffat write the first episode. He co-wrote the previous one, but he didn't write this one. He was actually supposed to.
Right.
In reality, what was going on behind the scenes was his mother was in hospital on a deathbed, basically.
All right. Okay.
And he was literally writing next to her.
God.
And then, well, it didn't end well, so
Yeah.
he ended up not writing this one. But I like to think that the stuff with Bill and her mother, I think that came from him. That feels very, like...
Yeah, that feels very him.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with like what you've obviously said, that feels very him.
Yeah, well, because I mean, I like the idea that Bill has visions of a mother to guide her when she feels lost. That's a really good idea, and it's the sort of thing like I think like anyone would do. I mean, I can remember when my granddad passed away. It'll been nearly a decade ago now, and for a long time after that, whenever I was like, I don't really know what to do, I'd just be like, well, what kind of reaction would he have had?
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that a lot. So I'll give the episode, some credit. Like, there are some really nice ideas in it. And especially with Bill.
It's just that they're not like conjoined together as well.
Yeah, it is very much all over the place. Like, it tries to do turn left very, very quickly with the whole dystopian future where like the monks are benevolent, and now instead of Christ the Redeemer, it's Monk the Redeemer. Or Terry, whatever his name is. He probably has like an actual name. Terry the Redeemer.
Terry the Redeemer.
Terry the Space Monk. But with like the monks controlling the truth across the planet, I'm like, oh god, you're being really timely with this thing now. Are you sure his name isn't Vlad? Jesus. But yeah, it is trying to do turn left. With like a dystopian society, but that one did it far better, frankly. It spent a lot more time in it. But easily the weakest stuff in this episode is the Doctor and the really, really cop-out, get-lost regeneration bits.
I was just like,
Get lost.
yeah, literally, I was like, get lost, will
Yeah. I mean, for one, Capaldi's performance is unbelievably over the top. Like when he's being shot and his arms are flailing everywhere as if he's in a
you?
pantomime
Oh yeah,
with
it's
his
quite campy. Like
with
it's
his
quite
fluffy
campy.
hair. And the worst thing is that the bits with the regeneration were in the teaser trailers for this series, especially the because people thought, oh, are we going to get the regeneration in this series? No,
Yeah.
of course we're not. Instead, we're just going to get something like this, which is just completely cop out. Like, it's worse than even like the bit at the end of the Stolen Earth when he's regenerating and he just chucks it into his spare hand.
Yeah, it's the hand vial thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that's immediately what I thought of as well. It's like that reminds me of that bloody episode where Davros is a pet.
Imagine Davros. Pet Davros.
Though I don't think that one was as over the top as this one. This one was just like camp up to like
Yeah.
11.
I also don't buy the fact that Bill would just be driven to shoot the Doctor point blank. Like,
Yeah, I
I
was just
do
like-
not buy that for a single second.
After everything that's gone on so far, and you're just willing to put a hole in his head.
I was going to say, like, you are ruthless. Like, my God, where the hell was this in the previous episodes?
Bill the Butcher.
Billy Butcher. The boys. There you go. That is
Jack
actually his
Jack
name.
the Flipper.
No.
Jack the Flipper and Bill the Butcher.
Damn it. Damn it, man, Dan.
Jack the
Um,
Flipper.
But I do. You've just completely lost us now. But I do like how everything is tied up because of Bill. Like, she's the one that like causes the entire thing. It's only her that can actually sever the link. I do like the monk corpse that's got like the weird crown thing on. That does look really creepy. Like, somehow even creepier.
Oh yeah, I like that. I thought that was really quite sinister.
Though this is one of many, many times where the villains are beaten by love. We already had the Cybermen like that in Series 6, and we'll never remember
Yeah,
that
because
again.
isn't the ending like? 'Cause obviously the crown is like connected to like the control that the monks give and stuff, and Bill uses it with her emotions of like losing her mother and stuff like that, and that's how she wins. I thought that was really good actually.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's plenty of decent ideas in this. It's just overall.
It's just a shame they're kind of all over the place though.
Yeah. That being said, I don't think this is the weakest episode of the series. I don't think. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Now we have a final contribution from Mark Gatiss as a writer. Oh my God, what the hell kind of face is that? I mean, I know that no one else can say it, only me, which frankly is a godsend. We have Empress of Mars, and considering the squeeing smile, I take it you really like this one.
I wouldn't say it's my favourite episode out of this one,
Jesus,
but
yes, I
I
wouldn't.
still like it.
Yeah.
I still like it. I think this is like I want to say like the third appearance of the Ice Warriors throughout like Doctor Who.
They had a bunch of appearances in the classic series. This is the first proper episode where there's like multiple ones of them. Like,
Yeah, I was going to
otherwise
say
it had
because the only
Cold
other
War,
one was the
which has had
Cold
one.
War episode. Yeah, because that was just what's his face?
Skaldak.
Yeah, Skaldak. Skaldak. Skaldak, the scavenging submarine Mars creature.
Yeah, I had that thing. Yeah, this is probably Mark Gatiss's best Doctor Who episode that he's written, because I mean, I've made a point of saying this in like every retrospective that we've done on this series. I've never liked Mark Gatiss as a writer for Doctor Who. Works better in
Yeah.
Sherlock. This is the one time I think it has actually worked. I'm like you, I don't love it, but it definitely works, and I do very much enjoy it. And plus, it is just nice having like a full blown Ice Warrior episode again too.
It kind of just feels like a much needed resurrection of these, because they're like when you think of like Doctor Who villains, like I think anyone would just say, well, like Daleks and Cybermen. Like I think Ice Warriors are just quite hidden down. Like I wish Doctor Who would just like every now and then just have episodes where it's just underrated and unknown villains.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like the Sea Devils, which we'll obviously get to later on in this real podcasters thing when we dive into the Chibnall Era.
Chibbers.
But yeah, I think like it's just so different in ways.
Yeah, I mean, for
Much
one,
needed.
yeah, because like the setup, I really like how there just happens to be at NASA. They're looking at Mars, and there's just a big thing saying "God Save the Queen." But you're like,
I know.
oh,
Well, isn't the title like the Doctor and Bill travel to Mars to discover the God, or it's like why is God Save the Queen scrawled on the walls of Mars? I'm like,
yeah.
oh,
And you're like,
okay.
oh, that's an interesting premise. In reality, it's because it's the actual villains, which isn't the Empress of Mars or the Ice Warriors, as ever. It's those goddamny, balmy, mustache twirling
Like the
villain humans.
most British villains you'll ever see in Doctor Who.
I did like how they've got a painting of Queen Victoria, and it's the Queen Victoria from Tooth and Claw.
Yes, I noticed that.
That was
I was
really
like, oh
lovely.
yes.
I like that.
Like I instantly noticed it. I was like,
I did
Tooth
as
and
well.
Claw. Tooth and Claw.
I was like, Paula, she's back! Yay!
She's back.
But yeah, it's like again with like the commentary in this series, you've now got the British Empire and how it wasn't really a good thing, frankly. In this case, they're here to take Mars as part of the British Empire. I'm like, mate, you've got a couple of million miles between you and Earth. You're gonna have to figure this shit out very, very quickly.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is actually really smart because you're combining like the British Empire, badness. I suppose the badness and the madness.
Yeah,
Because it is bad. It was bad.
but yeah, it was.
And you combine it with Doctor Who, it's genius.
But especially because it does that great thing. Because I remember when I was like doing my own like Doctor Who like fan fictiony stuff. Again, not porn. It is actually like really, really serious. And I had an episode idea for like like one of like the first colonies that like mankind would have traveled to, and they would have had like they would have tried to enslave the creatures there, but because humans at that point were already had a bit of notoriety, the aliens enslaved them because to their perspective they are the villains, they are the invaders, and you get that here because they're trying to enslave the Ice Warriors and they're like, nah, it's not going to work. Poor bloody Friday though. Poor Friday.
Poor Friday. You know what it is like? You can kind of see that he's just not happy. He's suppressing an awful lot.
Well, I mean, like, it's abuse, isn't it? It's like bloody slavery.
Yeah, and I suppose that's where it comes in, because they just sort of boss him around a bit. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, I'll have a cup of tea.
Yeah. But I mean, I do like the resolution how, in reality, it all ends not because of the Doctor, but because of Bill. Because the Empress is like, I'd like to hear from Bill, please. I'd like that.
Because that's like female to female, isn't it? Like female, yeah.
I do really like the design for the Empress as well. I think
it's
that's
rad.
a really cool design as well. But of course, by the end, you realise this is actually a prequel to a classic Doctor Who story, which took me years to figure out as well. Because you have the reveal.
Is it actually?
Yeah, so you obviously have the reveal of Alpha Centauri, the squid single eye creature that pops up on the on the monitor, played by the same actress as well. This character appeared first in The Curse of Peladon, in I think it's the third Doctor era, third Doctors, and in that episode it has Alpha Centauri allied with the Ice Warriors. And you get to see the start of that here because they've never actually interacted before. So it's a nice little setup for that, I think.
Oh yeah, okay, that is really cool.
What I will say though, because the voice of the of Alpha Centauri is kind of hilarious. When I was again with the research, I was like, "Oh, BBC in the 1970s, you need to figure your shit out."
Yeah.
In the classic serial, the actress who voices Alpha Centauri was instructed by the director I kid you not. Okay. She was told by the director to make the creature sound like a gay civil servant. And I was like,
What?
that's very specific. Where have you... I was like, I want to hear a civil servant that sounds like that, please. Thank you very much.
My God, what the hell?
They're just... It's... Imagine doing that now. The balls you'd have to do that.
Ugh. The backlash, oh God, you could just hear it, can't you?
Get a civil servant. What the hell are you on about? Director
Like,
Lenny
very,
Meehan.
very specific. Like, what the hell?
Question is then, viewers, is that accurate? Do they sound like... I'd assume they just sound like people. I mean, how we're... Christ on bloody mighty. Anyway. If we don't count the Christmas episode that comes up in a few episodes, let's address the weakest episode in Series 10, The Eaters of Light, which is very sadly written by Rona Munro, who, for classic Whovians, she's the first classic Doctor Who writer to work on the revived series. Anyone who wrote the old episodes had never worked on the revived series. She famously wrote Survival, the final episode of the classic series, with the planet of the cheetah people. I love that one.
Yeah, that's a seventh Doctor episode, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a great bit in Power of the Doctor where they reference that, and like Ace is like, when like she's interacting with the Master and she's like, the last time I saw you, you were half cat. I was like, oh my God, I love that. I mean, that episode is stupid. First of all, I mean...
Oh, it is. Like, it's stupid as hell.
Yeah. Also, I just love the fact that the planet doesn't have a name. It's just the planet of the cheetah people. Like, give it a name. Just call it... Just like, call it like Meow or something. Howie.
Meow.
It would be better than planet. Anyway.
Ah, yes, we're entering the yarn system here. And the
yes,
planet's
there you
Meow,
go, the yarn
is it?
system. Ah, it's
Yarn
easy.
system.
Spindle system. I'm not big on this episode. In fact, I can tell I'm not big on it because when I was going through a rewatch of Series 10 a couple of years ago with my girlfriend, I actually skipped 95% of this episode and just went to the final few minutes on the TARDIS.
Yeah,
That's it.
I'd definitely say it's the weakest of this series, and I think just the majority of it is pretty, like, generic. It's only really until, like, the last sort of 10 minutes, I'm going to say, where, you know, they choose to basically sacrifice themselves to guard this portal thing.
The portal thingy.
Yeah, and I was just like, well, you know, if we had this a bit earlier on, then maybe you probably would have been a bit better, but yeah, it's...
I just didn't care, frankly. It didn't do enough for me to care. But also, I kind of felt like the Doctor was just sort of like, okay, fine, there you go. You can do that. Which I suppose he's done that deliberately because of the whole history behind it.
I mean, the only bit I really like is when the Doctor, like, kind of refuses, like, to basically let them sacrifice themselves. Like, you know, I can do this because I'm 2,000 years old. And then Bill just goes, well, it's their destiny. It's their choice.
Yeah,
I did like that.
It's just quite dark, frankly.
Oh, yeah. It is quite dark.
Yeah.
But then again, this entire series is pretty dark.
They do have a nice thing with music, though. Like, I mean, you get that bit when, like, the plane and you get towards the end when, like, Missy rocks up, because I forgot to mention that she's brought in Embers of Mars because the TARDIS decides to run off because it's terrified, because it's like a cat. Like, oh, no. And poor bloody Nardol's like, I need someone to pilot the TARDIS, and the Doctor ain't here. Michelle Gomez, the actress. Hello.
Missy.
And you get that like sweet little moment, because the whole arc for Missy across the series is her trying to be good.
Yeah.
And I like, you know what it is, like, you know, I mean, I love the Master as a character, but it gets to a point where it's just like you've turned into a bloody cartoon. This is how you do the Master very well, where it's like they start out as friends. Let's try and get back to that, and you get that bit when she's listening to the music, and she's actually having a reaction to it, and even she's like, I don't even know why I'm crying,
Oh yeah, I thought that was absolutely terrific. That bit.
Because it's even freaking the Doctor out, because even he's like, well, because it could just be like a plan, it could just be like a trap, or this is that, or the alternative is even scarier, is that this is actually real. And it's really sweet. Like, I really like that.
Yeah, it's. I thought, like, as you say, like, the Master does become a bit cartoony when he's just, evil all the bloody time.
Yeah.
It's like, it does become quite cartoonish, like, not particularly with the Revive series, but, like, when you go, like, to Classic Who, every, like, time there's an encounter with the Master, it's just, like, some deviant plan.
Yeah.
It's like, I've trapped Adric in this web in my black TARDIS.
Bloody Adric. No one likes him. Poor sod. I'm glad he dies. Well, we'll get to that later. We won't. We're never talking about Adric. Let's instead talk about the best episode of Series 10. One of the finest episodes in Doctor Who history. I'm sorry, it just is.
Oh, it is.
World Enough in Time. Hilarious title.
It's absolutely terrific, this episode. It's got to be one
Yeah.
of my favourite Doctor Who episodes of all time. This.
It was this episode when I was coming up with the idea of doing like these like Doctor Who retrospectives. I was like, when we get a Series 10, when we get to this episode,
Yep.
it's gonna be great, and
Yep.
we're gonna kick things off with your general thoughts, because I can finally talk to you about it, because I kept silence on this thing for ages.
As soon as Missy just came out of the bloody TARDIS,
Yeah.
I was like, you've got me.
Yeah, I love that.
You
That was so
absolutely
good.
have me. And Missy in this is just absolutely terrific. Right, and I'm now going to state what I mentioned before. Where, like, obviously the weird old man hermit thing in this hospital station, whatever it's called.
Razor.
Yeah,
Well, a guy.
Fraser. Yeah, a guy.
Yeah.
Who's totally not the Master or anything, Anyway, he's like, but you don't remember me, do you? And she's like, for goodness sake, will you stop wittering on? Otherwise I'm going to have to splatter your brains and use it for finger paint. I was just absolutely dead.
Oh, that's it. Oh, actually, so I wasn't thinking about that.
I was just absolutely on the floor with that. I had to rewind it a couple of times because I found it so hilarious. Like, it's just the way, like, she just pauses what she's doing. Like, she always just, like, when, like, you're distracting someone, like, you want, like, a keys, and all you hear is, like, for goodness sake, will you just stop wittering on? Otherwise, I'm going to splatter your brains and use it for finger paint. I think it was just the finger paint bit that just had me so off guard.
I actually thought when you said there was a bit that just made you cry with laughter, I actually thought you meant the opening bit when Missy comes out of the TARDIS and is just like, hello, I'm Doctor Who.
I'm Doctor Who. I found that really funny as well. But that scene with Fraser just had me in absolute fits, mate.
Yeah, I love this one. For one, the setting is perfect. A 400-mile long colony ship trapped in the event horizon of a black hole, engines on reverse, won't actually move, so now time's working faster at one end than the other.
Yeah.
I love that. That's such a cool idea. And it's also perfect for why there's so many Cybermen that just appear. Oh, the Cybermen. Well, yeah, you know what? We'll get to that in a second. Let's address the big thing. Bill dies. Like, actually dies.
I tell you what, I wasn't expecting it.
No, I wasn't.
I really wasn't.
My heart went the same way the hers did. It was gone.
Yeah.
It was blown up. But it's so sad, though, because, it's just only because the guy's like, they're coming because there's a human here. Who is it? And initially you're like, oh, well, we'll just stay quiet. No, she's like, no, it's me. And the Doctor's doing that grandiose speech, and, as ever. And then like the elevator's coming up and it gets to this level and he's just bang. And it's just, my God.
Was not expecting it. I thought, oh my God, they've killed Bill. And then it only just gets worse.
My
God.
But then, of course, what this entire episode is basically an origin story for the Cybermen. Again. because we have had that before in Big Finish with the Fifth Doctor, a very well-known story called Spare Parts, which delves into the origin for the Mondasian Cybermen. So initially people were like, oh, so is this like a remake of that? Are they just doing it? Like, no. Even the Doctor says in the next one, it's like parallel evolution. Anywhere there's humans, Cybermen are going to come next because they're just inevitable. Thanos would be very happy with that. But of course, this is my favourite version of the Cybermen, and it's the first time in the entirety of the revived series that they've actually been done justice.
Yep.
It's the only time I found them scary. It's the only time I found them engaging. And in one sense, it's actually quite annoying that they've had to go into the past to do that. But let's talk about probably the best thing with these Cybermen. And by that I mean the most terrifying. We'll just set the scene. Bill wakes up at the bottom of the ship. She's now got a new chest. And she's walking around trying to figure out what's going on, and she just hears like a voice in the distance. So naturally you go, you go and wander towards it. I can see your face immediately.
I know exactly what you're on about.
And you've got one of the proto-Cybermen with those godforsaken, creepy as hell voices, just constantly saying, "Pain, pain." And then the nurse comes in, and it's like, "No, it's fine. I'm gonna give you something to help this."
But in reality, she just turns the volume down.
She turns the volume off, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" It's like, oh, so now all of a sudden they are always in pain. Doesn't she go
to like another one where she go to like another one where she turns the volume up and he's saying, "Kill me,
kill me"? Yeah, I was like, "This is how you do the Cybermen. This is perfect."
Oh my god.
It's just, oh my god, it's absolutely goddamn perfect. And then, of course, you get the reveal at the end with Bill's now been fully converted, and you get just, like, the design of it. And it's perfect. And again, the
in
voice.
Colour.
Yeah.
In colour as well. It's just like...
The voice is terrifying. I love the voice. It's, like, all playful. It's a bit like with, like, the emoji bots where, like, there's emotion when there shouldn't be. And you've got Cybermen that sound playful, and they're just evil.
Yep.
And it's great. Like, but also, I just like how beyond putting some gloves on the hands, it's the original design, and it still works. It's perfect. God damn it, I love them.
So creepy as well. Like the whole thing of like they're just not entirely made of metal, like the later versions of them. Like that there are still like human elements to it. Like I think like the gloves, the weird like sort of bandage mask thing that they wear with the emotion suppressors over them. I thought, okay, that is pretty darn creepy.
I do love the line from the nurse who's doing it, and like he shows Bill the headpiece thing, and he's like, "This won't get rid of it won't destroy your emotions, but it'll stop you caring." And I was like, "Oh my god!"
I was just like, "Oh god!"
Like,
do you know what it is? As soon as I saw that, I thought you're gonna turn her into a feckin' Cyberman, aren't you?
I was like, the balls on you. I was like, we've already had 2 companions in the Moffat era that have been turned into Cybermen. Bloody Danny. Not that he was really a companion. No, I mean, no one liked him either.
But you know what it is though? Like, it's really the only one that I think is like the most tragic.
Oh, definitely, without a shadow.
Like, because obviously we get in closing time, Craig, has a pretty close escape, we'll say.
Well, the difference being with closing time is that when James Corden, the actor, was being converted into a Cyberman, I didn't want them to stop. just like keep on going, please, for the love of God. We had no idea back then, did we?
No, we really didn't, did we?
Let's address the other thing that's in this episode. Razor, with those eyes. Now look, John Simmons, the Master, is back in this, obviously, as we all knew, because the damn thing was leaked before the series even aired. Because it was going to be leaked to the press, so the BBC were like, "Oh well, bugger, we're going to have to do it." It's the same as the Mondasian Cybermen. we knew they were going to
Yeah.
be in it because they had to spoil it because it was going to get leaked. And I was like, that's really sad, to be honest. I mean, even John Sim was saying behind the scenes, like, I hate the fact that it was leaked because
If it wasn't leaked, like, I think
Oh,
it just
you'd have
would've
no
made
idea.
It, like,
Just
you
like, I
would
mean,
have
like,
absolutely zero idea what you're getting yourself into.
I think because I mean, like, you look at the eyes and you're like, oh yeah, it is John Sim. But if you didn't know it was actually him, you're like, is this him?
Well, do you know what it
don't
is? I
know.
obviously didn't. I didn't know it was leaked, and this was my first time watching it. I thought there's something up with you.
So you didn't
don't know
actually
what
know that it
No,
was him?
I seriously didn't know it was him
I love that.
until
Okay,
it
good
was
then,
revealed.
excellent.
Until it was actually revealed, you know, that it was only really till, like, you know, you don't know who I am. So I thought, well, Missy, could it be the Master? Would they do that? I thought, oh, well, you know, it's one of those, like, ballsy things. I thought, it can't be the Master. Like, maybe it's, like, somebody she's, like, had dealings with in the past or something like that. But then, obviously, you know, my thoughts were correct.
Yeah.
It is the Master.
Yeah, I did. I can remember when we spoke about that version of the Master when we were doing like series 3 and the end of time stuff. I like the actor as the role. I'm just not big on that version of the Master. I do actually prefer his Master in this two-parter. I think, for one, he's got the classic series goatee, which I love. That's I just really like that. It's just really cute. Well,
I really like the part where there's actually reference to the last time that the Master and the Doctor like encountered each other. It's like the last time I saw you, you were heading for Gallifrey.
Oh yes, in the next one, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just love the fact that he's playing the long game with Bill, as well, where it's like, well, you're gonna get converted anyway. I'm just gonna have some fun, and it's horrible, but it's also really funny. Like
Oh,
he,
yeah, it's
like he's
really,
really funny. And he's and he's like drink this tea. It'll be okay for like the horrors to come. And she's like, what horrors? It's like mostly the tea.
Yeah.
I really
Oh
like
yeah. I thought, okay, that's a bit, you know, morbid to say,
Yeah.
but all right, I'll let it slide.
But yeah, that final bit where he's like, "Oh, this is actually a genesis of the Cybermen." I'm like, cheeky, very very cheeky.
I know. I was
Stephen.
like, ha ha.
But also that like very final line with Bill, where she's like, "I waited for you," and it's just a tear that comes down. I'm like, "Nah, Stephen,
Nah,
Stephen."
Stephen, I'm warning you.
All of a sudden, I'm glad you're leaving. Cause stop it,
You're
Stephen.
killing me. Much like you killed Bill.
Oh, Kill Bill, Volume 3, Cyberman edition.
God.
Yes, we of course we've got the series finale. There's one episode after this. We'll get to that. The Doctor Falls. Classic title.
Yeah.
There's some stupid stuff in this. I'll be honest.
There is.
But this finale is still really good. No, nowhere near as good as the previous one. Though. I mean, the previous episode is still gold standard for Doctor Who, but this one is still really damn good. And there's a reason why it works so well, because this was supposed to be Peter Capaldi and Steven Moffat's final story, hence the title. We'll get at that later. But yeah, everything in this works for the most part. I mean, the Doctor's arc is complete. Missy as well. The final stand against the Cybermen. As I say, it just should have been the final story. And it's this episode especially, because we haven't actually mentioned this, the music. At this point, Murray Gould was going to be leaving.
Yeah.
His work on the show was still very hit and miss in this era. But the music that plays, especially in this episode, is beautiful. And especially the end.
I really like it in this one. I really like it.
Yeah, and the end music when Bill's trudging through the battlefield trying to find the Doctor is just beautiful, and it kills me. Okay. That the soundtrack for this series has never been released.
I know.
Like, this damn thing happened 5 years ago. Where the hell is the soundtrack? I'm having to listen to bootleg versions on YouTube.
Like, oh, it's just such an epic bloody score for it. Like, why is it available?
I know.
I mean, as you say, it's that scene where she trudges through this worn-torn battlefield in search of the Doctor. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm loving this. But yeah, speaking of Bill, of course, for the most part, she's a sideman, but then she's also herself because she's so powerful, like in the mind. And I was like,
Like, I'm a bit mixed on this. In
yeah, I am
truthfulness,
as well.
like it is really tragic. Like I think the parts like where like no one will talk to her because obviously we see her like in human form. I'm like, well,
Everyone else
okay,
sees her as
like she sees herself as human form because her mind is a powerful thing, as the Doctor says, but everybody sees her as the murderous Cyberman that she has become.
mm,
And it's just like, okay, I really like that. Like, the children are scared of me and stuff. I thought, okay, yeah, that's quite tragic.
mm-hmm.
People refuse to talk. Yeah, that's quite tragic. But then, like, there's just parts of it that I think don't really, like, fit in all too well.
Yeah, it doesn't entirely work. It's a bit. There's a part of me that
Do you
thinks
know
it
what? Do
might.
you know what one of the bits reminds me of? It's like when obviously like she starts getting really hacked off
Mm-hmm.
with it, and the weapon on the cyber helmet earpiece thing goes off. You know what that reminded me of instantly?
I dread to think.
The Witcher's Familiar, where Clara is in the freaking Dalek,
For
and
God's sake.
yeah,
Don't
and she's
reference
like, I have a
that.
Dalek, I have a Dalek, and it just goes on spinning and shooting. I was like, yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah, but at least it works better here.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I think what I also like is the fact that even the Doctor's acting all coy as to like whether or not he's going to save her, and even she gets to it like halfway through and is like, "You're not actually going to do that because you can't,
Yeah,
because there's nothing left, literally." And even he's in denial. It's like, I'm already in the process of blowing up in a couple of minutes, so can we just focus on saving you? Oh no, we can't because there's nothing to save. And it is really sad, especially for that Doctor Companion relationship, which the more I watch this, I actually think it might possibly be my favourite of the revived series. I think it's damn near perfect. And it's just annoying. And also really great that the fact that we get this much development in 12 episodes. When there's other ones that did not get that nearly at all.
Clara.
Clara.
Cardboard Clara.
Cardboard Clara.
Clardboard.
Yeah.
Clara board.
Card Oswald.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely tragic at the end of it. Like, I was a bit teary at the end. I was like, oh my god.
A bit. I was very teary. Like, my god, I was properly welling up. Again, it could just be the music, but also just like the way this episode is constructed. It is absolutely designed to be the final story for all of these characters. Again, we'll explain why it's not later. Until the other one. But what I also like about this one, that this is actually a first for Doctor Who, because we've had multi-Doctor stories in the past. We now have our first multi-Master story, because we've never had that. No. And it's great. It's just, also, the Master is the kind of character that absolutely would just flirt with himself all the time.
Well, he does that, though, because, he does it because it's like, is it bad that I'm feeling? And Missy's just like, yes.
I'm trying to picture, so you're saying that he's got a bit of a hard-on for himself. Like, John. I'd like to think that entire bit was, ad-libbed. I don't think that would be written down.
Because it's just, the subtle moment of, is it bad that, and Missy's just like,
yes, it is, stop it. But yeah, I really like how he's trying to steer her back to the way that he is, but then the Doctor's pulling Missy to the side that she should be on, which of course culminates in that speech, which again, damn it, man, Capaldi with his bloody speeches, which again basically just brought me to tears, where he's like, I'm not doing this to win, I'm doing it because it's fucking right, and because it's kind. You know,
doesn't he say I just want my friend again back by my side? I was like, oh god.
It's like, oh, how are you? But I think what's even more tragic is the fact that Missy does side with him, but when he's not there, so he goes off to fight his Cyberman, assuming he's going to die, and he'd never know what happened next. He wouldn't know whether or not, because from his perspective, she just gave up. He was like, nah. No,
she just swanned off with the Master.
let's just say that resolution is beautiful, and it's like if you're gonna kill that character, which frankly you could, Chibnall, that is a perfect ending.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a shame that it's undone in about 2 series, which you haven't watched yet, so that's fine.
No.
Despite a very good actor playing the character, was not happy with that at all. Like, I would have been happy with that being the end for that character. But of course, you've got, throughout this entire 2-part, it's been bookended with, well, it opens very, very lazily, frankly, with the Doctor stumbling out the TARDIS about regenerating. Like, no, absolutely no.
Well, doesn't he just shove his hand in the snow?
Oh, I love that. I was like,
No.
I was like, hang a second, does regeneration stop in the cold? I don't think that's how it works.
I know, because I was like, well, you shoved your hand in the snow and you're just not regenerating anymore. You've suppressed it. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, so does the cold affect it?
Yeah. That being said, I mean, I just like how he's flat out refusing to change because he's sick of being someone else. Like when you're this old in your life, especially at the time where you're like, I'm just done with this. But of course that leads to one of the best cliffhangers in Doctor Who history. The Doctor Who's refusing to regenerate, facing the very first one. Bloody David Bradley
also is refusing to regenerate.
But also because he's terrified. Yeah, I really like that as a cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
However,
now we have technically the final episode of Series 10, Twice Upon a Time. The episode that should not have been, and wasn't going to. So, I mentioned how the Doctor Falls was supposed to be the finale. It was.
Yeah.
It was penciled in, it was going to be that. The Doctor would have regenerated at the end of that, and that was fine.
Yep.
Christopher Chibnall, however, was like, I'm not...
Christopher Chibnall!
He was like, I'm not starting my era with a Christmas special. So I'm going to start with Series 11. And Stephen was like, well, I'm not going to lose the Christmas special because it's a fairly coveted slot. We're going to keep it. We haven't had a Christmas special in 5 years because of Chris. So frankly, he's just evil. He is just designed to hurt us. Much like the Sun. So this entire episode is basically just a 60-minute epilogue to The Doctor Falls, where nothing happens. There's no real villain. Nothing new is learned. There's just a bit of meandering around. Some nice ideas.
A bit of meandering around. Rusty the Dalek at some point. A bit more meandering around, and then, okay, yeah, I'm going to regenerate now.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it.
Yeah. It's pointless. It's a completely redundant episode, and if we were counting this alongside the rest of Series 10, this is the worst episode for me. I've never liked this. And again, there's bits I did like, and I'll be honest, I did tear up in the final scenes with Capaldi, but that's mostly just because of his performance. He's so damn good. Let's address the very, very old elephant in the room. That being said, actually, there's a really funny line from Steven Moffat when he was doing press for this, just after the release of the episode, and he was talking about how this episode will be very unique in the history of anything ever, in that it's the only time that David Bradley has portrayed a younger version of Jodie Whittaker. I was like, when you put it like that, that's actually quite funny. Of course, David Bradley playing the first Doctor, that just seemed perfect, frankly, because he'd already played William Hartnell in An Adventure in Space and Time terrifically well. So it just works. And I like the in-universe reason for why he looks slightly different, because he's midway through a regeneration and he's just suppressing it, so he looks a little bit off compared to William Hartnell. I'm like, you didn't have to do that, but that's quite good.
I think it just makes you kind of want to buy it a bit more. Like you're not so nitpicky with it. Like you're like, okay, yeah, I can understand that. Mm-hmm. I can get on board with that.
What I can't get behind is the characterization of this Doctor. Now look, especially like both me and you, we've been going through like the classic series this year, like every now and again. It's very, very difficult to, because there's a lot of us. But especially with the first Doctor, he does not act like the first Doctor at all.
No.
In fact, he acts like a character he acts like a person from the 1960s. He's like very misogynistic and very sexist, even though you look at that character, and he's not like that at all. It was even said behind the scenes, Steven did it as a joke. That's it. I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all, especially because when you think about it, this will be some audiences' first interactions with the first Doctor, because it's 50 years prior, and that's how you're gonna use him. Like, no, not a fan of that.
I mean, I'm definitely with you with it being like he just doesn't seem like he doesn't act like the first Doctor in any way whatsoever, and he doesn't. Like, I've seen enough to make a comparison. Like, the only time he really does anything similar is when like he does like the thing with his jacket,
which is barely anything, but you know,
which is barely anything, but that is about it.
Mm-hmm. No,
like he doesn't do the little hearty laugh that he does. He does the.
Well, I mean, like, he doesn't look. I mean, like, he's definitely got the mannerisms down. It's just like the direction he's been given is just a piss take, frankly.
I mean, I know it's absolutely stupid, but I really did laugh quite hard when like Bill is just going off at the 12th Doctor, and like the first Doctor steps out the TARDIS. It's like, any more language like that. I was like, okay, that's stupid, and I'm stupid for laughing at that.
You gotta love 12's reaction when he's just like, let's just never talk about this again. I'm like, mate, I'm there with you. I'm absolutely there.
I mean, I tell you what, like the whole thing with Bill, that Bill's alive and stuff like that, I didn't buy like any second of it. Like, it was fairly evident that it was just one of these weird. Don't even know what the hell they're called anymore.
Testimony, I think it was called. Yeah. Yeah. So the villain, well, it's not really. There's no villain. It's very rare, and occasionally it can work. This one doesn't. You have the organization known as Testimony, which is just glass creatures that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: when the first trailer dropped for this, and it didn't even have a title, originally it was actually just going to be called The Doctors, which is that's actually quite good. I like that.
Yeah, that is quite good.
When you see them in landscapes and settings where time is frozen, I actually thought what the plot was going to be was both of them are refusing to regenerate, and time just stops and just completely freezes, because it's like you kind of have to do this.
Would have been a bit better if it actually was that, though, because, I mean, as you said, this is just an episode where there's a lot of meandering around.
That being said, you'd end up with comparisons to Futurama, where, like, the final episode of that is time frozen. That one could make you cry. It does.
It just really feels like there isn't any consequence in them, like, not regenerating. It's only just voluntarily themselves, like, okay, it's just time to regenerate. There's just no consequence throughout the entire episode. Because,
I mean, like, the first Doctor changing his mind makes sense. And I do like how he now actually has, like, an actual final line as a Doctor, who he never really had that prior to this. But the 12th Doctor just kind of just changes his mind just very, very quickly. He's like, well, I suppose one more lifetime won't kill anyone. And you're like, okay. I mean, it will, but okay. But I do like how the final moments of him is basically just saying, right, for my future self, instead of sending an email, I'm just going to tell you what the hell you're going to do. And she's going to forget about all of that for 5 years, but it's okay. Like, never be cruel, never be cowardly, and never ever eat pears. I was like, what? When have you ever said you don't like pears?
like a grand speech. It's like, never be cruel. Like, he does it with like such emphasis, and it's like, oh, I never eat pears. I'm like, what?
It's like, now I come to mention, I don't think I've seen him eat a pear, but then again, I don't think I've seen him eat anything, frankly.
No.
And yeah, those final bits I do really, really like. I think it's really good. Even if there's a lot of jokes you can make when Jodie rocks up, she presses one button on the TARDIS and it explodes and it chucks her out. I'm picturing like a women's driver kind of joke kind of thing here.
I mean, when I saw it, because obviously I've just got into the Chibnall era, I was like,
you have.
okay, this is, I mean, with Matt Smith, he kind of just flies his TARDIS into a shed,
As we all do.
as we all do, and 13 just falls out of it,
Plummets.
as you do.
Yeah. I feel I did like how again when like Moffat was talking about it was on that Doctor Who the fan show on YouTube, and he was talking about how he asked Chibnall just like, okay, what do you want to do? I'm assuming you want to have the Doctor in the TARDIS. Like, yeah, I also want to blow up the TARDIS. And he's like, okay, you want to blow up the TARDIS? Absolutely, of course you can, Chris. You are going to ruin the production designer's heart if you do that, but it's fine. That's okay. We can do that. And there's a little bit that he says where he's like, if you want to ruin really, really good things, Chris, you can. And he does.
Well, he does, exactly.
It's like, you are such
There's
a
no
bad woman,
foreshadowing or
Stephen,
anything.
my
It just
God.
literally happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really want to talk about this episode anymore. I don't like it.
No, I think as like a final thoughts kind of thing, like it just would have been a bit better if we just didn't really have it, or if it just wasn't the way it was. Like it is literally just the Doctor and the first Doctor going on like a rampant adventure, and then just voluntarily
weird.
deciding that they're going to regenerate. Like, there's no consequence throughout that film.
It's probably...
Like, really the only consequence is just, like, Bill. But even though she isn't a consequence, it's just, like, her glass memories. That's it.
It's like,
And then, like, they just decide, like, well, we're just going to regenerate. Like, you just could have done that anyway. We didn't need to have it, like, 60 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, again, there are bits I like. I will actually reference the Christmas armistice of 1940. I think it was 1949.
Oh, I like that. I really like that.
That one was really good. And it was a nice bookend to the whole Doctor of War thing that they set up earlier on, where it's like, oh, you're a Doctor of War because you've just killed all these people. No, actually, it's because you help people.
Well, because isn't the captain who gets, like, involved in all of this,
Oh,
isn't he, like, Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart?
He's either the father or the grandfather. That actually had a bit of controversy because the one.
So it's like, there's no way that can be like the Brigadier that's in the classic one. Like, must be like a distant relative or something.
It's like father or grandfather or something. But I mean, apparently the ones who created the Brigadier originally in the classic series tried to sue because, like, oh no, this isn't the history that we know. But then they eventually came to a conclusion that it could be.
Yeah.
Pointless. That being said, his reaction to the TARDIS, I think, is beautiful. Where it's just like, is this madness? I'm like, that is brilliant. But also,
to be honest, I like some of his lines where, like, they're having like a really like in-depth talk. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm just lagging behind a little bit.
but also the bit when, like, the Doctor's like, oh, I know you're a soldier from World War One based on the uniform. And he's like, what do you mean one? It's like, oh, sorry, spoilers.
Oh no, it's just the coldest stuff. It's like, oh, sorry, spoilers.
Okay. One final thing. Just one more. Fluff. Bye, Fluff.
Oh, yes, the fluff.
Oh, the
Can't believe we
fluff
actually
is-
didn't mention it. Oh, my God.
Because I was getting angry at the other things, Dan. It was a
Yeah,
bit
that's
difficult
probably
to
like
focus
the
on
only
fluff.
good thing that really came out of this episode was floof.
And to think, this is now going to be the final time properly we talk positively about Doctor Who for a very long time. It's fine.
Regan, put it this way, right? If
I'm
we
giving
did like
you 3 entire weeks to get ready for that.
3 weeks, I'm going to need 3 bloody years.
That's fine. I had 5 and it still wasn't good enough.
Like, if we were still doing the playlist stuff, right?
Nah.
Honestly, you would have had about like 20 minutes of me just absolutely going down your throat about Chibnall.
Oh. I was like, Dan, get out of my throat, please. No!
Oh, God, context!
Bloody
Yeah, it's not
ghost
good.
monument!
Yeah, this is probably like the last ever time we're going to speak positively about Doctor Who.
No, there will be positive things. I won't say when.
Just
or where.
Just very few.
Bradley Walsh. Yes, that has been our thoughts on Doctor Who Series 10. yeah, I've already said this is probably one of the finest series of the revived thing.
Oh,
Just
definitely.
full stop. As I say, whether or not I put it higher than Series 5, I don't know, because I do have a lot of affinity for Series 5, but this one works a lot more than it doesn't, frankly.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, it ends on an episode that didn't need to exist, and began with an episode that Dan really doesn't like, technically, if you count the return of Dr. Mysterio. You like help? I've got problems with you. Anyway,
I really don't like that episode. I
know you
really
don't.
don't like it.
I know you don't. But luckily we don't have to talk about it, because instead we can talk about 11 episodes in Series 11 that everyone loves, which again, that'll be happening at the end of this month. Next week we will be back talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. One I'm very much looking forward to. Hopefully. Marvel needs something good this year, because my God, is a big crap. But yes, thank you very much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed us rambling about a porky science fiction series on BBC One on Saturdays, because now it's on Sundays, which is a complete piss take. But yes, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week. But until then, it's goodbye from Dan.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.